All right. All right. So I think now everything should be working. Sorry for that. I had some problems with the sound. What's up, guys? Welcome. Happy you guys could make it. For those who are, I see some people are short in time, but they're still supporting. Much appreciated. Kuba, thank you, man. Thank you for the words. They mean a lot. Alda, same thing. Thank you as well. And congrats to you as well, man, for killing it lately in the Discord. Awesome to see. Crypt Thomas, thank you, man, for joining for a little bit. You guys can finish watching it later. Until I show you where the feature is, guys, there is still time to redeem eternal glory if you can just find the feature, but I don't think you will. It's it's a new way, but yeah, supporting the algo. That's where we're going, man. That's where we're going. We are going to create an algorithm. This thing is far from done. Acru, thank you, man. What's up? Good to see you. But let's dive into it. So first things first. Obviously, this is a beta. That means that there's probably going to be bugs. There's probably going to be some other things going on. It's not the full version yet. Probably don't need to explain it. But the main thing is, things are going to be wrong. If there's, or maybe not, who knows? But if you see something that isn't working properly, please let me know, and I'll put it in or change it. And obviously, if you see things that you would like or do not see things that you would like to have added, let me know. And if you see things that are not relevant, feedback, right? That's what I'm trying to say. So we're back into development cycle. As you're saying how, yeah, I got it on pretty fast, not bad, but Azachin was here for the last development cycle as well. So if it's going to be anything like it, we're going to see a lot of releases in the couple of months to come. I expect to release quite a bit in the next 3 months. So over the next 3-4 months, feedback is very important. So please, if you find anything of the feature, then please let me know. All right, I think no one has redeemed eternal glory, so I'm just going to show you where the feature is, and then we'll dive into it. Oh, Wilhelm found it, eternal glory. Nice. All right, so someone found it. Wilhelm found it. He's not on the stream though. So where you have to find it now is you have this little thing on the top left, right? These two arrow marks that you see right there. If you click that, default, you will be seeing this. You can also use this for a quick navigation if you ever want, I guess. But if you collapse the top one, then down there you will see fair value gaps. And you press that one, and that will take you to the fair value gap area. So this one is, and then you can just unfold it, and there you go. And then it takes you to the fair value gap feature. Obviously, I don't have like any navigation here and stuff yet. It's also a little bit of an experiment to do it like this. There's multiple technical reasons to do this. I'm not going to go into the technicality of it. I don't want to bore you guys with it, but I might do a lot more of this going forward. It just has some advantages. But that's where you find it. So if you can see it, then please let me know. Hopefully you see it. I think you can see it because I already saw that Wilhelm found it. But this is where you will see the feature. I also want to note, maybe before I dive into it, what I want to note in a couple of months where we're going to go, like the view is the following, right? You may or may not start using this feature, but the idea is that I want to become a comprehensive, or Minoma Analytics is supposed to become a comprehensive statistics platform with multiple types of statistics. Obviously, quality above quantity. That's why I spend a lot of time, for example, on this. So it's not that I'm just going to like spawn a shit ton of metrics and statistics. But in the end, I do want it to be a statistical powerhouse that will be able to support multiple types of trading, right? So statistics that might benefit you might not benefit other people, and so on. So the idea is to kind of like scale into different kind of statistics, different kind of environments, and give people some choice, and also give some liberty and some more options to find statistical edges. So that's one thing. That's more of the long term where we're going. Then the second thing is what I said last time. This is just one part of the features. So this is this page, and anyone who's been on my last stream where I kind of teased it will already know this. But this page is meant to answer the question of like, okay, how long does it take before these fair value gaps get filled, right? Or how long does it take to kind of like give you insights into that? How we're going to use it, man, I have to be honest. We'll have to wait and see how people interpret it. That's also why, it's a beta, and we'll go from there. But the main question here is like, okay, how long does it usually take, and how far does it usually go? Then there's going to be another page where I'm going to focus on reactions. I have not built that yet. That's probably going to, I hope to release the beta of that in 2 weeks, but it might be 3 because, yeah, it is an enormous technical challenge, and there's quite a bit I need to change now because if a programmer would review my code right now, he would be horrified. But sometimes you just got to push it through. So that's still coming, right? And I think the reaction page is going to be really cool as well. And what we can do with this is, for example, but this page is also going to be really cool for the wick fill strategy. So it will be easy to do the wick fill strategy here, right? If you have a big wick, then it's like a pretty common strategy that we fill 50% of it and go on. So that one is something we will also, or I will also put in this dashboard. And for example, order blocks would also be really good for this one, right? So it is more about it's also a lot about the foundation, right? So even if fair value gaps do not turn to be the best thing, but I think they're pretty cool, actually. I think they're pretty valuable. I'm mostly excited to see how you guys are going to use them. And obviously, I'm going to be using them as well going forward, checking how they work. But for today, let's dive into what exactly we're looking at and how we're going to use it. Well, not how we're going to use it. I'm saying that wrong. I want to focus on what it is. How we're going to use it is obviously up to everyone. And also, we need some time using it to kind of see what the best approach is. But for now, my goal for today is that you know what you're looking at and how to interpret it. And it's not that difficult. The good news is that it's much more intuitive than the previous features that we had, right? So the P1, P2 thing is, well, you all know it requires a lot of tutorials. This one really doesn't. I think maybe that's just me talking about because I've built it, but that's what I think. But let's dive into it. So, Yelena, what's up? Good to see you. Auke, what's up? Blanco, good to see you guys. Nice, and it's busy on the stream. Good to see. But let me see. Oh yeah. So Yelena, good that you're here. I remember that once you asked if we could get like a chart in the dashboard. I know it's not a proper chart yet. It's not a TradingView chart, but it is something at least a little bit close to it, right? See it as a first step towards a proper chart that may or may not, hopefully will come in the future. But so what we're seeing right here, I think is pretty obvious. We have now Bitcoin selected on the daily time frame. You immediately notice that I have this as a drop-down box for the time frame instead of having the navigation here. This is also something I'm trying out. It is way easier for me in terms of programming this thing. Well, let's see if that's something you like or do not like. But for the sake of explanation, I'm going to stick with Bitcoin and the daily time frame for now. So what we're seeing right here is obviously the price action of Bitcoin, where the blue line is the open price, and then you have these squiggled lines which mark the open and the top and the bottom price. And basically, I mean, this is clear. This is that range we've been in for 6 months. Then you see green dots and no red dots at the moment because, the green dots, you can see it here, is bullish fair value gaps. So fair value gaps are the left to the bottom, and bearish fair value gaps are obviously fair value gaps to the left on to the top. So after the move is down. Right now, there's no bearish fair value gaps, and that's why you don't see any red dots. Let me check that. Again, it's a beta. There might be something missing. Good to say that I would personally use this indicator, fair value gap from Spaceman BTC. I find it's really nice, and it does exactly what I need. And this is exactly all the fair value gaps marked out by this indicator are exactly the way they are marked out in the dashboard. So if you have these, you will always know. So for example, if we have the daily here, we see indeed that there's no fair value gaps up top. There was one that got taken out today. And then we have the fair value gaps here on the bottom. So if we look at the previous 14th of October and the 12th of October, we had fair value gaps right here 14th of October, because this candle put it in, and the 12th of October, or the 11th of October. I probably got that wrong on the date. Yeah, it is the 11th of October, excuse me. So the 11th and 14th of October. So you see where those fair value gaps are. Oh, God, I didn't press play and waiting for the stream to start. I can make a joke about that, but I'm not going to do it. Okay, so this is the fair value gaps, right? Now, what you can do with it is you can select the fair value gaps, and then you will see, the open fair value gaps, and then you will see that it populates a lot of the screen. So what exactly is happening when we're pressing this, and what isn't? We're going to get into that a little bit later, but just so you know that you can actually click them. I want to show you that there's two graph options right here. There's a limit, or if you click, oh man, well, see, first thing I did wrong. I need to, all right, so I'm going to have to go and fix this immediately because I put this too far on the back, so you cannot actually click it. What this is doing is that you can select a look back period. So you can, right now I'm looking at the last 300 days. What you're going to be able to do after I finish the stream, I will fix this, is you can put in how many days in the past you want to look at. So that's different to this, right? The reason I did this is because I cannot show you now, unfortunately. If you have like 5 years selected and you have 5 years of historical data, it's going to be very difficult to click like fair value gaps because it's so small. And that's why I have it. So you're going to be able to do that. Basically, what you can do with the limit look back period is you can select if you want to actually limit the look back or not. And you can use the same drop down menu to wait, actually, I think I can say I can. Let me do it. I just want to show that. I'm sorry, guys. I think I can fix that pretty easily. Let me quickly do that, because otherwise it's just such a pain to explain. Let me see. I'm going to go here, do some live coding. Let's check. Edit. Sorry, guys, stick with me. I know you're probably already playing around with this thing yourself on the background. Normally, I don't do this here, but no, I think I'm gonna have to do it later. All right, I'll fix it. I'll fix it after the stream. Too bad. It's the one option that I cannot find. I can show you actually here though. I'll finish. I'll do this after the stream, but I'll just show you here now for just so you know what I'm talking about. So right now you do not have access to this developer option, but what you can do is if you press deselect this, then the look back period is unselected. So then you're looking at, I'm pointing at my screen, what am I doing? Then I have to get used to this webcam stuff. But then you're looking at just this selection, right? So if you press this, then you'll see, all the way back here. Now, an interesting thing to note immediately is that you see that all the open fair value gaps that you see here, so all the bullish ones, they are left in trending moves, right? So that's what I said last time. In ranges, they tend to get filled much sooner than in trending moves, and these are open for years by now. But basically, what you can do, this is just selecting which date range your statistics are calculated on. Whereas this, if you select this, you're just saying like, well, so the statistics are still calculated on this date range. Just your graph is focused on the last I don't know how many days you want. Again, easier to click. Finally, you have the same one. You can show mitigated fair value gaps. So these are fair value gaps that have been closed. You can press those, and then you will see all the gray dots appearing, which are mitigated fair value gaps. And you will immediately see A, how often they occur, B, how often they get filled. Liquidity magnets, as we will see. So As soon as I fix this after the stream, you will be able to use that. Right now, you are not, but I will have to do that later. So that's that. Then next up, what are we looking at? So first of all, there's time. If you see here, you see the cumulative percentage of the fair value gaps filled after a number of candles. A number of candles, but you can look at different, what do you call it? I can actually make this a little bit more intuitive. I will do that later as well. But you can look at, in this case, it's the time frame of daily. So you're looking at the number of days it takes to fill a fair value gap. So if I hover, for example, here, then I can see after 101 days, 87.5% of fair value gaps have had a first tap, and 80% of fair value gaps has had a full fill. I mean, you can see actually how here you see already that after 25 days, 77% of fair value gaps had a first tap and 70% had a full fill. So this is how you can do it. And I think there is some difference in between assets on this as well. So for example, if I look at the same 25 days, yeah, I find that Solana fills them pretty quickly, 82% after 25 days, not bad. But so that's what you're looking at there, right? So you're just looking at, okay, how long does it take for a fair value gap to fill normally? I'm taking this stream, by the way, from basic to more advanced, because there are some more advanced filtering options that you can use. So for example, what I could do is if I have Bitcoin right here and I have this fair value gap right here on the daily, I can select it. And what it will show me, okay, so this green dot right here, you can see it on here, time of first tap. This is when the first tap occurred, right? You can see that. It's also why here, current status for selected fair value gap, partially mitigated. What that means, let me just show that, is that we had the fair value gap here. There's basically three different things you can see there. We had the fair value gap partially mitigated, simply means that we went anywhere in it, but did not fully close it yet. That's what partially mitigated means, right? So that's the first tap. This is just the first tap. This could also be a first tap like this, whenever it is hit the first time. This fair value gap is, and then we'll see that if we select that one, that fair value gap is unmitigated, right? We see that here. And therefore, you also see no green line here because it's simply a green dot because it isn't at its first step yet. So what we see here, let me get back to that, is what we can see is that, okay, the first step occurred here. And right now we are here. Right now, this thing, we see that here, is 4 candles old, right? In this case, it's days, so it's 4 candles old. So this orange line is basically depicting how old are we now. So what we can see now is, okay, we had that first step, and by 4 candles, which is where we are now, 42.2% of fair value gaps are filled by 4 candles, right? So this is what we see here. And I'm going to explain these statistics in a bit. First, I want to cover the other thing, right? And that's this one. So here you have another chart which is similar, and it says cumulative percentage. Oh, wait, let me actually check if there's any questions about this so far. No, if there's any questions while I'm going, let me know. But here we see cumulative percentage fair value gaps filled after percentage move away from the fair value gap. What I mean with that, and I've already heard a comment saying that maybe it's not the best name. I agree. If you have a better name, let me know. But what that means is simply put, so if you have the fair value gap here, then it measures from the fair value gap how far price usually moves before either tapping it, filling it, or reversing it. So in this case, price moves 5.84% away from the fair value gap, and it has not tapped it yet. So in this case, it's okay. This is another good thing to note. You will not see 5.8% here, but here, because here you will see it populated 5.0%. Why is this? It is the beta, so it is not yet fully, how do you call it? It's not live as in the other. It doesn't update every 5 minutes. It updates every 24 hours. So you're not going to see this thing update all the time. That's what I'm going to try to build into the next week, along with some other technical improvements or well, not even improvements, necessities that I have to make. So for now, just realize that it updates every 24 hours. That's why it's a beta. But my aim is to make this update every 5 minutes, just like the other pages, right? That's what I'm going to work towards, slowly but surely. But besides that, obviously you can already use statistics to get a good understanding of these things. And maybe that's a good thing to say. I think my hope for this feature is mostly also to increase understanding of the market. That's my whole goal with all these features and statistics. I just think your understanding of the market and price action can increase so much more when you understand statistically how price is moving and how price is behaving. So maybe that's even my best hope for all the new features we're going to develop. But it's going to be good. It's going to be really good. So, this is the distance it's measuring, right? So what it's basically saying, if you have 5.8, well, this is saying pretty much this orange line, if it's live, would be at 5.8%. And if it would be at 5.8%, what we see is that, I need to change that to a percentage, 50% would have a first step of fair value gaps but after 5.8% move, and 40% would have a full fill. All right, this is what I'm saying. Again, I'm not going into how do I interpret this. And the reason why I'm not going into it is because I just want to focus on that you understand what is standing here. I have a stream tomorrow. Probably I will go a little bit more in how to use it. But once again, that is also I already have ideas. I've already shared some things as well, but it's also, something I will need to uncover as we go on. But for now, I'm focusing on how to read it. So, if we move 5.8%, basically what this is saying is like, okay, well, 40% of candles will be fair value gaps will be filled by them. And by the way, you can see how fast these fair value gaps get filled right here, right? So, an interesting thing, and that's what happened last week, which I shared when I said I think this fair value gap will get filled pretty soon, is that we had this one right here, that got filled at some point. We had that first step, but we didn't have that filled. So let me actually, I'm just going to go back to right here. Let me do that because I do want to show you that you're able to do this. Give me a sec. Give me a second. All right. Edit. All right, there we go. Get that back, get that back, get that back. So what you can do if you do show mitigated fair value gaps, so in this case, let me see when the fair value gap was made, was on the 27th of August. If I go here to the 27th of August, I think it's this one. No, it's the 2nd of August, 22nd of August, and I select that, and it will show you when these things were filled. So here you see it's fully mitigated, and this is more for back testing than anything else. And then in this case, you will see, okay, the first step was here after one day already, and that happens a lot. The full fill was after 22 days, and we see that 67% are filled by then. Moreover, you see there was a 4.1% move until the first step. So let's check that. We had right here. That's because it measures from here until here at the bottom. Maybe I'll actually change that to the next one because this is the confirmation candle, right? This is the fair value gap, but this is the confirmation candle. So everything is pretty much measured from here. But in this case, I measure it from here. Maybe I'll change that. But 4.1% until the first step. And we can see a 12.9%, 12.9%. You can see that here, right? Until the second tap and, 22 days. So this is also more for back testing, I guess, but you see it more or less 12%. I am not doing it exactly 12.9%. So here you can see, when exactly that happened or when and how far. So the interesting thing here is that if you're somewhere here and you still see that if I could say one thing, I would not interpret this as, for example, if you're here and if you're at, yeah, let me actually explain that with a real life example later on. But so this is something where you can very easily select mitigated fair value gaps and backtest from there. But let me show you what I wanted to explain by now finally going here. So here you see statistics for how many fair value gaps are tapped. This is basically this right page, this right part of the page is not going to give you any new information. It's just going to give you information, present information to you from basically these charts in a more presentable way. If the fair value gap is already tapped, this is simply showing you, when you see it was tapped after one candle. So this just shows 35% will get tapped after one candle. And it was a 3% move, right, as we saw here. So this will simply show you what this value is just when first tap happened. That's also why this is green. Green pretty much means completed, right? So it's good for backtesting, but I wouldn't interpret that anyway in going forward. However, what you do see right now is that, all right, so here it's not filled yet. That's why this is white. What we can see is that after 36 candles, which is the current age, right, the age of the fair value gap, 36 candles, 70.8% of fair value gaps are filled after 36 candles. 70.8%. So if you're looking for daily trades, like probably would be even better to look at 4-hour or hourly fair value gaps, but we'll get to that later. But 36 candles are 70 point, because you're talking about, a month here. So you're obviously talking more in the swing trading range, but that's because of the time frames. But 78.8%, and that's simply so that you don't have to look here and say, okay, so when is this? All right, so 78% full fill. All right, gotcha. And I think the most important question you can ask, okay, in the next period, how many more are we gonna or do get filled usually? So for example, we have 36 candles here. What you can do here is say, okay, I have a Y value. So say, for example, I put it to, 20, like I say, and what you're basically asking here is, okay, after 36 candles, which is the current age, 70.8% of fair value gaps get filled. How many are filled in 20 more candles from now, right? So this is 56 candles. So within 20 candles, how many are filled? And it says 75%. I would not interpret this as, okay, there's like a 75% chance to fill it within 20 days. How I would see it is that you want this value to be, it doesn't really matter. You want the difference between these values to be as high as possible. Because that means that if I look, for example, here to this one, 14.1% and 66%, that means that within the next 20 days, not only is it like a high probability to close close it within the first candle, or well, not high probability, sorry, but if you see it here, the first steps maybe 35%, not bad. Within 20 days, 76% have a first step. So what you can say, okay, so we have a high chance of doing it today, but not only that, within 20 candles, a lot of these get filled. Again, I don't want to go into too much of like how to use it or how to interpret it. It will also be depending on, even within 10 candles, 71% is filled. So you see, in this way, you can very easily see, okay, well, in 10 more candles, and we see 71% is already filled. So, it's just an easier way to interpret this. Because, for example, what you would normally do is look here and say, okay, first step, 35% in the first candle. Let's see, what is the chance of filling it in within 10? It's like, okay, 70%, or within 10 here, 71.3%. And that's basically what this is showing right here, right? So you don't have to do that yourself. Exactly the same thing here with the max move, where you say, okay, 5%, 44.3% of fair value gaps are closed within the current 5%, or sorry, tapped. We're talking about the first step here. So this is first step. This is full fill. What you can ask yourself, say, for example, well, within 5%, how many of them are filled? So within 5 more percent, 66% get filled, and within 10%, 75% gets filled. I don't know how, in practice, how much this is going to get used. Maybe not at all. That's why it's a beta, and then we can delete it. But so basically, the right part of the screen is simply so it's easier to interpret the data, right? It's easier to interpret the data. There's already a couple of things you can remark that are interesting. But before I'm gonna go into that, I'm actually gonna dive into some more advanced filtering features. So these are all the basics. If there's any questions on the basics, please let me know. If there's not any questions, I will simply continue. So obviously we can filter on weekdays. So for example, you could ask yourself, okay, we talked about this. I mean, on the daily doesn't matter. So for example, now we're on the daily time frame. Oh, actually pretty cool. Let me look at the weekly time frame. I didn't have much data yet. So if I go to the weekly time frame and I go to 72 fair value gaps, 72. I was really curious to see. It's too bad that this button doesn't work. I would like to use it because I had very limited data on my test environment. So this is the first time I'm seeing how often they or with some more data. 72, it's not that much, but I was just curious to that one. And you could do the same here. So this one probably had a first step. It did right there. All right. Let me continue back on the daily. So for me, if I would see that price, it's here. So that's what I mean, right? If it's here, you see, and say a thing didn't have a first step yet, which probably happened with this one. Yeah, so say we didn't have a first step yet, we're here. 87% would have the first step here. I would not interpret this as like, well, there's an 80% chance to have the first step. That would be weird, right? Because that would mean you have to go all the way back to 40K. Because you see that this is just a flat line. If you reach this stage, it is very likely that the fair value gap is just going to remain open. It's just going to remain open. So, don't take this value as 87% and then say, okay, there's an 80% chance of filling it. It's not. That's definitely not the way to use it. But let's go into the more little bit. Oh yeah, I was going to go to the 4 hours. So for example, what you might wonder yourself, and I really haven't dug into these statistics myself, so I don't know. But for example, if you click this one on the 4 hour, what you see here is that it was put in during midnight and 4 a.m. on a Monday. You could, for example, and this is the number of fair value gaps. You always want this number to be reasonably high, like at least 100, I would say. With the weekly, we don't have it. That's why I would be very cautious with the weekly time frame on this one. There's just not enough fair value gaps. Obviously, on the 4 hour, we have a ton. What you could do, and again, I haven't used this. I don't know if there might not be any difference, but I kind of also want to work towards a platform where there's more room for creativity from the users, so to say, so that you might find your own edges. So this is just one very small step towards it. But you could, for example, say, well, then I'm only interested in Mondays fair value gaps that have been put in at 12 a.m. So 12 to 4, right? And then you can see here that the data changes based on that. And then you can say, okay, well, it goes faster or not as fast. I have no clue what it did. I wasn't paying attention. Maybe actually it would be nice to make a chart out of that. But you see that 71% get filled at 11 candles versus 76% for everything combined. So it does seem that Mondays, if you put it in on Monday let me check, on midnight, that it's a little stronger. A little stronger. 53. Oh, yeah, it's a little stronger. So the Monday morning is there's definitely a difference that I'm noticing because I'm looking here. I mean, I want to. I know I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm getting enthusiastic. This is the first time I'm using this thing in full glory, right? So, but I will go into that more tomorrow because I mean, what time? I really want to focus on the practical things because people will look at back as well. So, all right, focus. So, that is something you can just do. And again, it is not filtering this table or this graph. The graph will just keep the same, but it will filter on what data you are looking at, right? So, or what the calculations are based on. So you will see that it goes from 2200 to 400. And you can do this for everything. So, for example, this one right here, I know uh, Ike, Auke asked me on Friday, hey, what do you know about fair value gaps on Friday between 12 and 4? I couldn't answer it then, but I can answer it to you now. So then you can say, oh, well, let's check, Friday at 12 p.m. And then, you see all the fair value gaps that were put in at that time. And this is actually an interesting one, right? Because it's a Friday and it might be, maybe it will be easy or good to use in confluence with the pivots, right? The pivots. And oh, wow. Wow. That's crazy. Yeah, I'm really getting ahead of myself, but so one thing I can already tell you is that the bigger the difference between the first tap and the reversal, the more chance you have for a reaction, right? Same goes here at this distance. Because oh, that's actually a good one to say. What is a reversal? I'm sorry, guys, I should have started with that. So if we have a fair value gap, then say we have this fair value gap right here. This is the low of the candle that put in the fair value gap. A reversal would mean closing below this, right? Because we can fill it fully. This is full fill. If we would have a reaction from there, it would not be reversed. It is only reversed if it closes below here. So naturally, the bigger the difference between these lines, the reversal, which is here, this is saying, okay, well, apparently it's taking quite a long time between filling it and reversing it. So that it already shows you that at least we're getting a temporary reaction. And this is showing that, well, there is a difference between these lines right here, 20% difference. So there does seem to be not too many, if I'm being honest, but the difference here is just indicating when something had a reaction in terms of distance, right? So this is saying, okay, we can touch it, and then there will be quite some time until we reverse it, right? So until we close below. So this is things you can get out of the chart that are not directly apparent to you. There's more things you can get out of this, but yeah, I don't want to get. I'm just getting way ahead of myself, but this is what we're looking at, right? So if we have, after 26 days, we have 83% first step and 72% full fills, but 50% reversals. So that means that at least, there's a reasonable portion that doesn't lead to an immediate reversal. And that's just basic, right? And what I said, well, this interesting is because it seems that if you have a Friday 12 p.m. fair value gap, then the difference between this seems to be pretty high, right? Which I'm interpreting as, okay, so, and actually the first step and the full fill are really close together. So what you're seeing here is that, okay, often once you tap that Friday fair value gap, the 4 hour, you will tap it and fill it at the same time, but very often you will not reverse it. And probably get at least some time before you do it. So some kind of reaction, or even a little higher. So that's interesting, right? So that's just some little idea of how to use it. So these are the obvious filters. Then let's go to the less obvious filters. So one thing I like to do is, as we have seen, especially in the other one right here, if I deselect these, limit look back. I mean, look at all these fair value gaps. Crazy. I have to say though that these are also small fair value gaps, but surprisingly enough, the statistics don't change that much if you take small value gaps out. But there's an absolutely enormous amount of fair value gaps over the last, well, maybe it looks more than this, 192 over the last 5 years. But what was I gonna say? I got sidetracked there. Oh yeah, so the fair value gaps that remain open are usually the ones in trending moves, right? So let me not show the mitigated ones. See, in the last 5 years, all the ones that are still open are the ones from very trending moves, really like bull run moves, right? Are the ones that get that stay open for a long time. Whereas, for example, here, if you're in the range, which you will see here, limit look back, right there, you see all these fair value gaps get closed pretty soon. So what you could, for example, do, and this is where we get to the more advanced filtering, you can press filtering here on the right side, and I have some filters there. I might, how do you say it, increase the filtering, decrease the filtering, let's see, or add some more filters. So what you could, for example, do is say, okay, well, I don't want to pay attention to all these fair value gaps that stay open for that long because they bias the data a bit, right? If you include them, it is true, but you can also say, well, it's very rare that that happens, right? In the last 5 years, I think there's maybe 3 occasions, if we look at this, 3 occasions where we had fair value gaps really stay on for a very long time. Right here, well, maybe 2, 1, and then now this one. Let's see if they stay open. But so it doesn't happen much. So what you could, for example, say is, well, I want to. If you say age of fair value gap less than 500 candles, you're basically filtering out all the fair value gaps that are stay open for very long. And the way I interpret it is saying, well, I'm just filtering out the candles that are not put in an extremely trending environment. So if you know you're not in an extremely trending environment, which actually I'm starting to doubt right now because I do think we're getting close to the breakout. But just so you can filter those out and look at what happens to the statistic. Look at what happens. So this would have been a very good thing to use in this range right here. So let us replay that. Let's replay. We remove that one. Look at this one here on the left. So let's check. After 30%, 30 candles, 77% of fair value gaps at the first step. If we filter out everything that stays open for a very long time, then that same value, where was I? Oh man, I completely lost where I was. 81% for 20 candles versus 75% and 63% against 70%. So it increases a bit, right? And you can see here that indeed, obviously, this is nearing 100%. And I mean, you can do this however you want. It depends on you. I'm just using 500, which is conservative. You could also use 200. Basically, the way, and then you see, so basically what you're saying here, okay, if I wanna see fair value gaps that get closed within 200 days, and if you're in a range like this, then you can be pretty sure to get closed within 200 days. I'm starting to doubt it now because of what I said earlier. But then, you can take a look at this, and then you will see after 20 days, 87% of fair value gaps get filled, and 76% of fair value gaps have a full fill. I'll probably add some more statistics that will give more things on this. But so you can mess around with this according to how you want. Then there is the confirmation close over. Basically what this is, okay, let me show you. I have noticed a grand difference between different price behaviors. So if you have a fair value gap, right here is the high of the fair value gap candle, not the high of the fair value gap, and this is the confirmation candle. What basically this column is saying is, did we close the confirmation candle above here, right? So did we close it here, or did we close it below? So for this one, right here, you can see it's here, confirmation type. Over previous wick. Well, that's a bug. Or did I just do that the wrong way? Before previous wick, oh, I might have done that the wrong way. All right, so I might have done that the wrong way, but yeah, okay. So this is just a problem in only this column, probably not the other ones. But what you can see here usually is when it's and this is the right one, Monday, October 14, Bitcoin, yes, Monday, October 14. Only October 14. Yeah, so that's just a mistake because this should be before previous wick. I'll fix that. Once again, it's the beta. But that's just because the reason I included that is because I see there's a big difference in how the sticks react, whether you close it above or below it, or bearish is below or above it, obviously. So, for example, if I say, okay, what happens if you don't close over that wick? Look at how everything changes, right? What it's saying, it's closing much faster, and usually it doesn't have that much distance as when it closes. I mean, look at the difference if I do false versus true. Then look at that, right? Look at that. A massive difference. A massive difference. So if we do have that close over the fair value gap, oh yeah, over the fair value gap, then you can see there's a difference in how fast it closes and how far it goes. I'm not going to go into too much. Yeah, if you want to use this or not, it's completely up to you. Once again, it is more that you have an option to do some more personal analysis. You could, for example, select only bullish fair value gaps to see what the statistics are saying on that. Interestingly enough, there seems to be quite a difference. So bullish fair value gaps tend to feel less than, oh yeah, wow. Big difference. So, I mean, you see there's a lot to play around with. And finally, you have the session right here, which, is just a different one of time. So this obviously only works if you go to the 4 hour or below. So you can say, okay, what if the 4 hour, it was, fair value gaps was put in London, what happens then? And, oh shit. See, I'm also just exploring this now for the first time. Look at that. London fair value gaps suck. So yeah, so this does affect this a little bit because I didn't change that. Okay, but it's also because of the scale right here, I see. Yeah, okay, so a good thing to note, I might change that. This x-axis changes based on what you have selected. And the reason I did that is because I might change that because it's a little bit misleading, as I see now. But for example, if I London here, what if I would have not London selected? Not much of a difference. But so this is how you can play around with, seeing if there is a difference between London, New York, Post. But for this, I'll probably make these static. Probably make these static so that you can see it better. So that's something I noticed. So these are some more advanced visuals that you can use to see. Don't use these on the visual, just mess things up. I'll hide them. And that's it, right? So every time I start a stream, I'm like, all right, this will be explained in no time, but I'm always wrong. But and then obviously we have different assets. We have shoot your shot, like we have everything updating nicely. We have the 4 hour, we have even the hourly time frame, so we could check on let's see what Pendle is doing as I was in a Pendle trade. So we can even say on the hourly what's going on. This, I have to say, it's not updating every 5 minutes yet. So it's like this, you will only see this in the next day what's happening. But here I could do, for example, on the hourly, check it, and I see, well, we're already here. So I don't think there's a very high chance of, actually, you're still kind of increasing here in terms of distance. So the distance is still good for it. But this is how you can. It works. I must say, I'm really happy how fast it works. That was an absolute bitch to make, if I pardon my French. But I mean, the hourly chart. Look how fast it's loading, except for maybe this one. But here you can see, for example, on the hourly, what are the chances of this this one holding or not? I don't know if people are actually going to use it on the hourly. I'm going to leave you guys to it, but it does seem, here, a lot of them get filled pretty quickly. So maybe even the hourly is interesting for day trades. I don't know, because, here, 24 candles, 76% is filled. And you are talking about hourly candles. So that is within 24 hours. Pretty proud of my math there. So, this all looks, yeah, I also say pretty cool. I know there's a difference between, there's probably a difference between different assets. For example, if we have Lana here, yeah, I guess we just have to figure it out together. But this is at least how it all works, right? So these are all the features. Holy shit. You guys see what I saw? Let me do that again. Whoa. See, this is what I mean. Look at this. This is Bitcoin. Now look at the bottom left chart when I select Doge. Damn. Those fair value gaps got filled very fast. After 10 days, 80% at the first step and 60 at a full fill, and after 25 days, 75% at a full fill. So if you have, for example, this daily fair value gap right here, this is pretty cool. Let me look up that fair value gap right there on the chart. So that is probably going to be this one, I'm guessing. No, it's not. It just got filled. It was this one. It got filled today. It got filled today. Yeah, so it's still open because it literally just got filled. And this updates every day. But so we could have used this and see that it was untapped, it was unfilled, and we see that here. Well, you can see that this is the not a weird zone to fill that in. If I zoom out 15 candles, 15 candles is here. So if you see this increasing this steeply, and I think I'm just gonna actually make it more steep. If you see it increasing this steep, then you know you're in a high probability zone to fill it, right? You're in a high probability zone. And in terms of distance, also not in this 15.4%. I'm going to change these charts a bit. So here also in the steep increasing zone. So this one just got filled actually, right? But I mean, you can see that Doge, for whatever reason, I don't know, I definitely not the most understanding on fair value gaps, but for whatever reason, they fill really quickly. Oh, I think I do, I know. Damn. I was like, maybe I still have this thing on, but I don't even have it on. Doesn't even change that much. All right, but that's it, guys. I think I'm gonna leave it there. Once again, this stream is mostly meant to show you guys how it works, what the new feature is, where to find it, most importantly. And now I'm gonna let you guys go off, unless there's any questions. I'm gonna let you guys play around with it, and hopefully you find it useful. A new, how you call it, realm of statistics. We're gonna expand into many other kinds of statistics. Once again, this is just one part of the feature, right? There's going to be a reaction feature where we're going to measure like what the reactions are. Then I'm going to use that same reaction feature and expand it towards naked data point and controls, which I think are going to be really, really epic. So I think if we get the reactions for naked data point and controls, that's going to be really cool. And that's why this is so important, right? Because it's laying the groundwork for expanding. Because if I have the reaction feature for the fair value gaps, it will be very easy, or at least much easier, to expand that towards the naked point of controls, right? It will be, this is a lot of building. For example, here, if I want to do order blocks, it will be much easier to get statistics for order blocks than it was to get for fair value gaps, because the foundation is already set. But that's it, guys. I hope you have fun playing around with this thing. Once again, please let me know if there's any feedback, if there is anything on your mind, whatever, something that's bothering you, something that you would like to see, something you would like to see gone, anything, let me know. The current this period is all about feedback. So thank you for everyone who would make it. I'm going to leave it here. Don't make it too long for people who have to watch back. Yeah. Let me know your first thoughts, maybe in the chat. That would actually be cool to hear what your first thoughts are when you see this. And with that said, once again, I want to thank you. I'll see you on the live stream tomorrow, where we're going to play around with using this in live data. So